Welcome to the Open Mic Diary. My name is Indra Adele, and you have just stepped into a safe space. Just like in a diary entry, in this space, I am free to be my most authentic self, be vulnerable and honest about my feelings and emotions, and give you a front row seat to my various life experiences, my challenges, my victories, ups, downs, laughter, tears, and everything in between. I'm turning my healing journey into our healing journey. And honestly, this is not your traditional podcast. This space is free flowing, hence the name Open Mic Diary. So expect anything. If you have not already, please go listen to the Allow Me to Introduce Myself episode so you have more context to me and the style of this podcast. Episodes, for the most part, will be uploaded in batches, but outside of that, I may decide to spontaneously upload episodes individually. So please make sure that you follow, subscribe, and have your notifications on so that you will always know when I post a new episode. I pray that my authenticity and my vulnerability in this episode blesses you in some way. You know, I think that sometimes when seasons change, it's a great opportunity to change, to grow, to pivot, to reflect, to intentionally be introspective and figure out where there might need to be an adjustment, where there's some weeds that need to be pulled out. Right now, for me, I believe I'm in a weeding out season, like just pulling out some weeds that, whether they've been there for a while or they somehow sprouted up recently because I neglected part of my garden. That is my life, my emotional, mental, physical health, spiritual health. I think I've just been seeing that there's a tension with the person that I am continuously becoming and this previous version of me that is like playing peekaboo. And I've been giving that previous Indra some attention that she doesn't deserve, not to be mean to her, because I still got love for her. You know, she's a valuable part of who I am today. But I've been giving her a louder voice than she should have. The parts of her who are speaking from a wounded and traumatized place. And when I say giving her a voice, I mean giving her power, right? Authority. I think that in some regard, like all the previous versions of me should have a voice, right? There are times where they want to say stuff, and I think I should pay attention to it because it can actually give me insight into who I am right now, right? Sometimes there's stuff that comes up from the past, whether it's a trigger, whether it's whatever it is, right? And it's like sometimes it's that previous version that it's only that previous version that can speak to that, because the current version of me does not live in the reality of the past version of me. So if I'm triggered or something comes up, it's like me right now don't really have much to say about that, you know? But previous me A few me's ago might have a lot to say about that. And I think I've just been determining the difference between like listening to what she might have to say versus giving those words authority in my present life. And I think, I don't know, I think I kind of hit um, a weak streak. Kind of hit a weak streak where I was just like feeling vulnerable. And kind of falling back into some unhealthy tendencies and patterns and coping, I should say. I think all of it stemmed from trying to cope with emotions and things that came up for me. Um, I'm working on some old wounds in therapy right now, like, um, because something happened recently that brought it up for me, and I'm trying to work through it. And I think naturally it kind of called attention to some things I haven't really had to talk about or deal with in a while. And yeah, it kind of created a familiar state of survival for my nervous system, and I just kind of defaulted to like what previous me would do to cope. And that's a few different things for me. And so I just realized like I was aware, I realized it, but then it was just like, okay, well, I don't know how to deal with this. Like I'm other than talking about it, like I don't really know how to get rid of this. I don't really know how to deal with it other than try to escape from it internally, right? And navigate it in a way that almost causes me to be numb rather than really deal with it. So I finally kind of just share that with my therapist after like kind of struggling with it for like a week or two. Um, Thinking that maybe somehow I could like navigate it on my own, right? Of course, that was a fail. Um, and yeah, like giving myself permission to be supported was really like what kickstarted me actually being able to regain some type of power in this struggle. And I'm not fully like out of the woods, I guess, yet, but I definitely feel more empowered. I definitely feel like I have more courage to evolve in this area and heal in this area. And I feel good about that. Um, I feel good about that. And I think sometimes when we feel shame, or I should say sometimes when I feel shame or I feel like I should be good with this. Like I should have had this figured out by now. I should have had this figured out by now. Um, I shouldn't still be struggling with this. Like this shouldn't still be a thing. Like I should be stronger in this area by now, or like I think those are some thoughts that I can have, and that can cause me to feel like I need to figure it out on my own, and it causes me to withdraw versus reaching out and extending my hand for like support and help, right? Like I can kind of fall into this space of like, because maybe I think there's like subconsciously some type of embarrassment, like almost I should already know the answer. I should have already figured it out. And that can really rob me of the growth and the healing and the breakthrough that I actually need, because like it's not something that I'm going to successfully navigate alone. And getting to a place of humility where it's just like, okay, maybe we did have this figured out, but for some reason right now, we don't. Like, it doesn't really matter what the reason is. The fact of the matter is we don't have this figured out right now, and we struggling right now. And so like, what do I need right now? Versus like, what is my ego trying to protect? What is my pride trying to conceal? Like, what do I need right now? And so actually considering myself, and it's something that sometimes I just have to intentionally do because unfortunately I've fallen into the bad habit over the years of not considering me and considering everything else and everyone else before myself. And so sometimes I have to intentionally make an effort to like, Indra, we need to consider you. What do you need? Like, what do you need? Because we're no longer navigating life in survival mode. Like we opted out of that. So I noticed that like you kind of venturing into survival mode territory, and since that's not what we're doing, what do we need to pull you out of that space? What do we need to like course correct, to pivot? Um and oftentimes for me it just looks like support, like guidance, mentorship, like, all of those types of things. God. Um and oftentimes it starts with releasing, like making it true out loud and not just in my head, right? Like saying it out loud, acknowledging it, acknowledging the facts of the situation and not keeping it all in, right? That is so much more powerful than sometimes I realize until after I do it. And I'm just like, man, I really needed to say that. I really needed to like let that out. Um, and then I can move on to like, okay, like, what are we going to do about it? You know? Um, so yeah, I've been reminding myself that sometimes it can feel like I'm taking steps backwards because there's a temporary struggle that's actually meant to like boomerang me farther into my healing than I was before I took the steps back. It's like it gets worse before it gets better type of thing. Sometimes I have to remind myself like there might be a major breakthrough on the other side of this struggle that will put me 10 steps ahead of where I even started, if I lean into it and actually tend to it the way that I need to versus avoiding it. And so I try to remind myself of that, you know, like, and just listen for what is there. Like, why is this coming up for me? What's really going on here? Um, did something trigger this? Was this a result of some thoughts? Was this a result of a conversation with somebody, something that happened? Like, where is this even coming from? And it might be like more than one thing, you know? And I realize that sometimes it's more than one thing. And it's like, I might have to unpack all of that. But being curious versus being fearful of my emotions and what's going on with me. Sometimes my emotions can intimidate me and scare me out of paying attention to them. And so then I go into like escaping from them, um, or just distracting myself from them, you know, being busy, too busy to really pay attention to them. And so sometimes writing helps me to release things that I didn't even know were there. Sometimes I'm writing, and as I'm writing, things come out on the paper that I'm like, oh, okay, like didn't know that was in there. Didn't know I was really feeling that. Or at least I didn't have language to it. And sometimes just in the flow of me writing and releasing on paper, it just comes out, and then I can work with what got dumped out. Um, for me personally, like that can be a very powerful way for me to kind of start the process of regrounding myself. And man, sometimes I wish that like healing was easy. and just like simple and like a one-stop shop. Like, okay, we pulled up, got what we needed, moved on, and never had to turn back. Like, you know, but it's not a one-stop shop. It's a multi-stop shop and a shop that you constantly have to keep returning to. It's like, you know, it's like going to the grocery store, right? It's like you go to the grocery store and get stuff that you need, and some stuff lasts longer than others, right? Like depending on how you maintain it, how you preserve and take care of it. But at some point, for a lot of those things, you're gonna have to go back to the store to like replenish, um, to refill, like to restore what was used up. And I think I kind of got to a place with some things for me where it's like, okay, I kind of needed a refill. I needed a refill, and so I had to go back to the store. And it sucks because sometimes all that entails is like not appealing to me, because I can see it as a work. Like, okay, I don't feel like having to dive into that, or oh, we got to talk about that again. Like, I thought we was over that. Like, oh, we got to bring this up again. Oh, there's another side to this that we didn't see. It was hiding. Like, oh, there's more to that. I thought we covered all the bases. Like, it's just like, for me, it's like, oh my gosh, like, I could be using my energy for something else. That's how I can feel sometimes. But then when I shift my perspective, it's like, what's on the other side of this is liberation and energy and freedom. So the longer I put off actually paying attention to it is the more internal suffering I'm creating for myself. So are we going to choose life or death? Because there is like an internal sabotage that's taking place. There's like a feeling like I'm dying slowly internally because there's a disconnect that's like progressing inside, right? There's like a um kind of drifting away from authenticity, which creates that disconnect from me. And so it's like, if I'm disconnected from me, then like what am I doing? I'm floating around somewhere detached from myself. Like, that's not life, that's not me living in purpose. And so that space is absent of joy. It's very hard to attain joy. Like, it's just almost like not even within reach because you're just kind of drifting. And that's kind of how I started to feel. As I was like, man, I feel like I'm trying to reach out and snatch joy out the sky, but it's like, I can't get it. I'm feeling discontent, and I'm feeling like nothing is quite enough to somehow get a hold of this joy. And it's like, oh, I need to reground myself. Like, I've been ignoring me. I've been allowing myself to drift away from me. Not completely, but just like in terms of what I'm going through emotionally, right? Like, there was just an aspect of me doing well, me doing good, and then like simultaneously not doing great in a particular area, you know? So even though, and I think that's where sometimes the deception can be, it's like, I'm not all around doing bad. I'm not just like 100% like in the black or in the red, you know? So I've been trying to reset, recalibrate, reground, reestablish, all of those things. Um, yeah, and I think I'm headed in the right direction. Um, and I'm leaning on support to continue to do that. Um, and taking the time to really tend to me the way that my body is telling me that it needs me to. Also, also, I'm feeling, I've been feeling some joy, some, uh, I guess, peace about returning back to my maiden name. Uh, One day it just clicked for me and I was like, yeah, I'm gonna do that. That feels right. That feels right. Because the only reason why I kept uh my ex's name, right? I mean, obviously it's like I have been going that by that name for years now. So it's like you just kind of get used to that. But I think the biggest thing for me, why I didn't change it back initially was like, I really wanted to have the same last name as my boys. Like, there was something about that for me where I was just like, I really, I don't know, that carried some type of weight importance. And I think I never really thought about having a different last name from my kids, because in my mind, okay, I would get married, then have kids. We all have the same last name. Like, you know what I mean? And so I think there was like almost an identity crisis where I was like, I'm going to have a different name for my kids. Like, that doesn't make sense. We have to have the same last name. And honestly, ideally, that would be the case. I would prefer even now to have the same last name as my children. But I think at some point, it was important for me to detach from that identity um, that was connected to my ex-husband. It just became important for me to return to myself in that way. And so it was something that just became important for me personally. Um, and your name is your identity. And for me, I'm like, I'm no longer one with this person. And so it just doesn't align for me anymore to keep that. And my boys will be my boys no matter what. They got my DNA all up and down and through them. Like, that's never going to change. They're mine, and my last name doesn't take anything away from that, you know. It's funny, my old Kai, Kai early on, like, was like, how come you don't go back to humans? How come you don't go back to to the name you had before you were married to dad? And like he was saying that like from the beginning, and I just was like, why do you like why what made you even think of that? You know what I mean? Like why is that even like on your mind? And he's like, well, it just makes sense, right? Like, it just makes sense that since you guys aren't married anymore, that you would just you would have the same last name, and he started mentioning like his cousins and my brothers, and like um it's just funny to me that he thought about that, and he's 6 now, and at the time he was maybe like 4 or something like that, right? And I wasn't ready then. So I've officially returned back to my maiden name, and it has been a little bit of a nuisance, kind of like updating everything. But outside of that, it's like it's really cool. Um, and it feels really good. Um, so yeah, um, I think it fits. It fits the returning to self and leaning more into my authenticity. I think it's the timing of it is like is perfect. Um, to be honest. So All in all, I am doing my best every day to manage myself, to not silence my emotions. Lately, there's just been a temptation to do that. I feel like I was doing really good with that for a while, and lately, it's just like it seems easy to kind of numb what's really there, and so I'm having to be very intentional on a daily basis, and so that's what I'm focused on right now. Intentionally allowing myself to feel, intentionally allowing myself to acknowledge what's true, regardless of what it is, regardless of if it might make me feel like a little bit embarrassed or it might make me feel some level of shame, or because all of those things are not real, right? Like it, those emotions are based off of some type of unrealistic expectation that I set for myself and some false perception that the enemy has deposited in my mind. There is no shame in truth. There is no embarrassment in my journey. I am an imperfect human doing the best that I can from day to day, just like everybody else. And so sometimes I just need to remind myself of what is actually true versus what is a completely false and made up narrative that only exists in my mind and nowhere else in real life. um, so yeah, cheers to the continued um, evolution of me and this thing called healing. That is a lifelong, eventful, has to be intentional journey.